Saturday morning. I had just poured myself the first cup of coffee and was watching the steam rise into the gray Oregon sky when my phone rang. Trevor West, my realtor from way back, the guy who helped me find the one place that was actually mine. "Hey, Delaney," he said, his voice careful. "Quick question. Are you selling your cabin?" My hand froze over the mug. "No." "Why?" "Because your mountain property near Bend just popped up on the MLS. Same photos, same lot. The listing is live, but the contact number isn't yours." A sharp chill ran down my spine. "Whose number is it?" He hesitated. I didn't want to say anything until I was sure, but I ran it. "It's for a woman named Mara Carver. My mother." I was silent for a few seconds. The quiet was so thick I could hear the clock ticking over the stove. "I'll send you the link," Trevor added gently. "Wanted to run it by you first, before I did anything." After we hung up, I opened the message. There it was. My cabin. My name wasn't on it, but every other detail was exact. Photos I never took. The description was written to sound plausible, a serene alpine retreat. The listing said available for private showing. At the bottom was my mom's number, bold and clear, like she had every right to be there. I didn't even feel anger, just a hollow emptiness and a growing pressure in my chest, like the ground under something sacred was starting to crack. I set the phone down, walked to the sink, and stared out the window, gripping the edge of the counter until my knuckles went white. My mother was trying to sell my house. I picked up the phone again and called her. It rang twice before she answered. "Hi, honey," Mom said, her voice carrying that artificial warmth she used when she knew she was in trouble. "How's your weekend going?" "Why is my cabin listed for sale online?" I asked, getting straight to the point, no preamble. A pause, then the same tone. "Oh, you saw that? You listed my property for sale?" Well, she drew out the word, like she was softening a blow. "Your father, and I just thought it would be for the best." "You're so busy, Delaney. You barely use the place." "It's not your decision to make," I said. Another pause. I could hear her settling into a kitchen chair. "It's for Sierra. She's expecting a baby. She and Caleb need room. They've outgrown that little apartment already. You know how expensive everything is right now." My jaw clenched. "You didn't ask me because you knew I'd say no." "Now, honey," she said calmly. "We're not trying to upset you. This is family. She needs help. You always help." I closed my eyes. "It's not your right to sell it." "We're not doing anything illegal," she added quickly. "We have copies of your ID, tax forms, old documents with your signature on them. We can handle all the paperwork if that's what you're worried about." I stared at the opposite wall, like it might crack open right then. "You want to forge my signature?" "It's just simpler," she replied softly, like she was explaining something logical to a child. "And we know you'll understand. When you calm down. You've always been the responsible one." She said it like it was a compliment. Before I could respond, I heard my dad's voice in the background. "Is she upset?" he asked. Mom muffled the phone. "It's fine, I'm handling it." I ended the call. Then I opened my laptop and found Trevor's number again. I didn't call him right away. Instead, I sat there with my laptop open. The cursor blinked in an empty draft of an email. My hands hovered over the keys, but I couldn't start typing. Memories flooded in and pinned me down. It wasn't just about the cabin. It was the whole way they always framed it. "You're so responsible." Those words were used to convince me to pay for Sierra's last 2 semesters of college when her scholarship ran out. The same words they used when her wedding budget spiraled out of control, and I wrote a check to cover the difference because she deserved a perfect day. The first time I agreed to help with the mortgage when Dad got laid off. I told myself it was temporary. They promised to pay it back. That was almost 3 years ago. $800 a month. Automatically deducted. Quiet. Invisible. No one ever brought it up. Not even me, because I was raised to be quiet, reliable, the one who fixes everything without question. The daughter who gives, not the one who asks why nothing is ever returned. I used to think that was love, that doing more meant being a good person. That being the backbone was some kind of honor. But sitting there, realizing they were about to forge my signature and sell the only thing I fully owned, I saw the truth for the first time. It wasn't love. It was control, just softened by years of obligation and polite smiles. I opened my banking app and canceled the auto payment. Then I picked up the phone, took a deep breath, and called Trevor. Trevor answered on the second ring. "Delaney," he said, his voice even but attentive. "You okay?" "No," I answered. "But I need your help. I want to sell the cabin." A pause. "You sure?" "Positive. Fast, if possible." "How soon could we close a deal if everything lines up?" "If the buyer has cash and financing ready, maybe 10 days. You remember that sheriff you mentioned? Is he still interested?" "Yeah. Colton Ree has been looking for something like your place for a few months. Lives in Sisters. Quiet guy. Steady income. Pre-approved." "Why?" "I'm ready to drop $10,000 off the asking price and add a bonus to your commission if the deal closes by next Friday." Trevor whistled. "You're serious?" "Dead serious." "All right. I'll make some calls." After we talked, I opened my laptop again. I wasn't finished. I logged into the joint account I'd opened with my parents years ago, when Dad had surgery and they needed help managing bills. It was still linked to my name, giving them quiet access to my finances. I revoked the power of attorney. Then I went through every single one of my accounts, checking if they still had access anywhere: insurance policies, joint statements, tax documents they used to manage for me. Every door they'd ever opened under the guise of helping, I closed. When I was done, it was well past midnight, but I didn't feel tired. Something cold and focused had pulled tight inside me, like a wire stretched taut. They had operated in secret, quietly building plans and justifying them as family help. They thought I'd just swallow it again. But I moved faster. When Trevor called back the next morning, there was a new energy in his voice. "He's in," he said. "Full price, minus your discount. Wants to close as soon as inspections clear." "Move on it," I replied. "Send whatever needs signing." The next few days flew by in a blur of paperwork, signatures, and calls. I didn't tell anyone, not friends, not coworkers, not even my aunt. Who would understand? I didn't need advice. I was quietly, legally, and without permission, taking back what was mine. By Thursday afternoon, the papers were signed, the money had transferred, and the cabin was no longer mine. But damn, it wasn't theirs either. 2 weeks passed. Silence was all I heard. No calls, no voicemails, not even one of Mom's subtly guilt-trippy texts. For a while, I let myself believe that maybe they'd moved on. Maybe they'd found another way to give Sierra her dream apartment. Maybe they realized what they were doing and quietly let it go. But on a Tuesday morning, my phone rang. It was Mom. I let it ring twice before answering. "Hello." Her voice was sharp, frantic, louder than usual. "Delaney, what is going on?" We drove up to the cabin with a couple who wanted to see the house. "And the locks." "Someone changed the locks. None of our keys work." I held the phone tighter to my ear, though I already knew what I was going to say. "I know," I said. "You changed them?" "Why?" "We have buyers ready to go." "It's not my house anymore." Silence. Then she laughed, but it was that brittle, nervous laugh, more anxiety than humor. "Very funny. But seriously, the buyers are getting annoyed, and your father is furious. This is getting more complicated than it needs to be." "I'm not joking," I said calmly. "I sold the house. Last week." The new owners put those locks on. This time the silence stretched longer. I could picture her face. Mouth opening and closing, trying to process that I had moved faster than she expected. Finally, she said, "You what?" "You just heard from us, and you didn't even say." Her voice cracked. "Delaney, how could you do something so cruel?" "Not cruel," I answered. "I did it because it was mine, and I'm tired of pretending I owe it to you." She started to say something, but I didn't wait. I set the phone down on the counter. My hands shook for a few seconds. My body was finally catching up to the adrenaline that had kept me calm during the call. But then, a strange, unexpected calm washed over me. For the first time in years, I'd said no and actually meant it. No one could make me change my mind. Ownership was final. The money was already going toward paying off my debts. I'd acted without permission, and there would be no apologies. I stood in the kitchen for a while longer. The silence wrapped around me like armor. Then the phone rang again. This time it was Sierra. I didn't answer the first time. Or the second. I let it go to voicemail. But by the fourth time, she wasn't stopping, and I answered more out of curiosity. "Delaney," she started sharply. "What the hell is going on?" No greeting, no pause. "Mom just called me in tears about the locks and the buyers walking away." "What did you do?" "I sold the house," I answered calmly. A pause. "You cannot be serious." "I'm absolutely serious. The house isn't mine anymore." "You didn't even tell anyone." Her voice got louder. "We've been planning this for months. I already picked out an apartment. Hired a nursery designer. We've been telling everyone we're moving to a new place. Then you shouldn't have built your future on something that wasn't yours." She was quiet for a second, like she was gasping for air. "You don't understand. I'm pregnant." "Yeah, Sierra, I know. And that doesn't make it my responsibility." Another pause. Then her voice softened, shifting into the tone she used when she wanted something. "We just needed a little help. Delaney, you've always been the one who holds everything together. Mom said you'd understand eventually." I sighed quietly. "Figure it out. Like the rest of us do." Her voice snapped back, sharp and familiar. "You're cruel." "No," I answered. "I'm finally clear." A long, heavy silence. Then she muttered something under her breath and hung up. I stood there with the phone in my hand, this time not shaking, not angry, just tired of always being the solution to everyone else's problems. Their whole plan had been built on my compliance. They thought I'd cave, because I always had. But they never asked what would happen if I didn't. The silence after her call didn't feel like guilt. It felt like a door closing. Not with a slam, just closed. Another 2 days passed. Not a word. Then Trevor called again. This time, it wasn't about paperwork or inspections. "Delaney," he said. "You are not going to believe what happened." My stomach tightened. "What?" "Delaney," Trevor repeated carefully, "the sheriff, your buyer, just called me. Someone broke into the cabin over the weekend." My stomach clenched. "Is he okay?" "He wasn't there, but the alarm went off. Cameras caught everything. Some guy tried to jimmy the back door with a crowbar, then walked around checking windows." I already knew what he was going to say next. "It's my dad, isn't it?" "It's your dad." I closed my eyes. "He got arrested." The sheriff recognized him from the paperwork and called the local police instead of handling it himself. Said he wanted to do everything by the book. "Of course," I whispered. "Thanks for telling me." "I'm sorry, Delaney," Trevor added. Wish I could say I was surprised. We hung up, and I sat in the silence until the phone rang again. This time it was Mom. "Delaney," she sobbed, before I could even say hello. "You have to fix this. Your father was just trying to get onto your property. He didn't know the house was really sold. Call the sheriff. Tell him it was a misunderstanding." "It wasn't a misunderstanding," I answered. "He thought you were bluffing," she said desperately. "We didn't think you'd actually go through with it. You listed my house online. You were holding showings. You were going to forge my signature. And now you're surprised I didn't let you get away with it. Don't be cruel. He's your father." "No," I answered. "He's a man who deliberately broke into someone else's home. He was told it wasn't his, and he did it anyway. He could go to jail. He made his choice." "You're heartless," she whispered. "No," I said. "I'm just done." I hung up and turned off my phone. There was nothing to explain. They hadn't underestimated anything. They knew exactly what they were doing. They just never imagined I would finally say no. And this time, no one was going to talk me out of it. News travels fast. Small town, small circles. The sheriff didn't press charges for breaking and entering, but my dad didn't escape consequences. The incident went into an official report. Within a week, his employer, a security gig at a mall, found out. He was quietly let go. No confrontation. Just a termination letter and a severance package so small it didn't matter. Mom stopped calling for a few weeks. Silence again. Then Aunt Cora reached out. She didn't lecture, she never did, just laid out the facts. They'd burned through most of their savings on legal fees, paying back debts, and Sierra and Caleb had moved in with them. I almost laughed when I heard that. The dream apartment had evaporated, and now the golden child was back in her childhood bedroom. Pregnant, married, and squeezed between two unraveling people. It's not good over there, Cora said softly. Your mom is picking up extra hours at the grocery store. Sierra complains a lot. And your dad? He's not handling the downtime well. I thanked her for the information but didn't ask for updates. They always talked about family like it was an obligation, like helping them was proof of love. But now that I wasn't holding everything together, it was all starting to fall apart. And I didn't feel guilty. I felt clear. For years, I thought my role in the family was vital. That if I stepped back, they'd crumble. Turns out, I was right. But instead of feeling needed, I just felt free. That evening, I made dinner alone, quietly listening to music with my phone off. I didn't want to save anyone. I didn't want to apologize. The next morning, I woke up without fear and scheduled my first therapy appointment. The first session was hard. I sat on the couch, not knowing where to start, staring at a framed picture of a tree over the bookshelf like it might give me the words I couldn't find. Dr. Leon didn't rush me. She waited. At first, I talked in fits and starts. Then it all came out. The cabin. The fake listing. The wedding money. The monthly payments. The silence I'd always kept because making noise felt like betrayal. She listened without blinking. When I finally stopped, she said, "You weren't their daughter, Delaney. You were their backup fund." I didn't cry. I thought I would, but I didn't. Instead, something inside me clicked, like a key turning in the right lock after years of trying to open the wrong one. We talked about boundaries. Patterns. The long, quiet conditioning that teaches you love and obligation are the same thing. She gave it a name: financial abuse. And it fit. Afterward, I went home and sat in my living room for a long time. No TV. No music. Just the steady hum of the refrigerator and the sound of cars outside. I looked at the space around me, small, no frills, but mine. And I let the silence sink in. That night, I slept through without waking up. No messages buzzing at midnight. No bank notifications. No weight in my chest reminding me that somewhere, someone was disappointed I hadn't fixed something for them. For the first time in years, I wasn't the backup plan. I wasn't carrying anyone else's burden. And I started to wonder what it might feel like to only carry my own. 7 months later, I was walking through a quiet neighborhood just outside of town. Hands in my coat pockets, eyes scanning the yard ahead. The house was small, modest, but it had a garden for now, just a patch of dirt. But I could already picture lavender and basil growing there. Maybe even tomatoes, if I got brave. The realtor opened the door and let me go in first. The floors creaked. The kitchen smelled like lemon cleaner. No granite countertops. No vaulted ceilings. Just clean space, unsoaked by anyone else's expectations. I didn't need to call anyone and ask their opinion. 2 weeks later, the papers were signed. The house was mine. After that, I bought a used Tacoma. Something reliable, no extra shine. The old car had finally died, and this time, replacing it didn't mean cutting back on groceries or skipping rent. I paid in full. No loan. No cosigners. No family involvement. Every month, I put money away, not for emergencies caused by someone else, but for things I actually wanted. A weekend trip to the coast. A class on growing herbs. Maybe a new mattress. My bank account wasn't a revolving door for other people's needs anymore. It was mine. The silence in my life used to feel heavy. Now it feels like air. No crisis calls. No guilt-tripping texts. No obligations woven into every holiday. I wake up, I work, I cook meals in my own quiet kitchen. I go to therapy, I make plans, small ones, but mine. No one tells me who I'm supposed to be. And I finally understand. Freedom doesn't shout. It's the quiet, steady hum of a life that belongs only to me.